The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
Oh, and I'm CJ. Sorry about that.
We didn't have any audio. Live TV, again. So, CJ.
And I'm wondering if we have the audio right now because we seem to be having a little bit of difficulty. Maybe we need to turn the TriCaster volume up. But
I hope everybody can read lips out there. Live TV, a wonderful thing.
It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So we'll just continue on from where we're at. Chip, so it's been a very busy week, to say the least. Yeah. And yesterday was kind of a show and a half for the City Council. And it just was, it was surreal. It really was. Council President Joe Camara used the old 1983 resolution, which restricted comments by citizens' input, limited it to 10 minutes, and then also limited to 30 minutes, and then limited each participant to 3 minutes. He went over that last night, but he kind of lost it when he was controlling the meeting, and immediately called for a recess because of Jordan Sylvia, and he wasn't going to have it. And the thing is that, I have a problem with Joe in respect to how he runs the meeting because he always violates city ordinance. And when he violates that ordinance, it's because he makes his comments from the chair, and he's supposed to step down. And not only is that in city ordinance, it's also in Cushing's Rules of Order. But I mean, what do you think about what happened last night? I mean, that was a little surreal.
Yeah, I mean, the entire meeting was kind of surreal. Of course, it had the cloud of what's happened in the city. Over there was a lot of anticipation at that meeting because everybody was wondering what was going to be said during the meeting by the public, what was going to be said by the council, if anything. So it was a pretty exciting meeting from that regard, and then immediately he began to lose a little control here, and there seems to be a lot of there seems to be something personal between the two, and I will say on the air, we have told Jordan many times that he's got to kind of control. And I understand that he had a very, very emotional issue he wanted to talk about, the attack, the alleged attack or attempt by the mayor and the mayor's people to basically put him in jail and take him away from his young family. He has a very young child, and his new wife is pregnant. So obviously he was emotional. And it got a little emotional, but as the chair, as you said, I think Joe began to really lose it. And I can't blame either party. I understand that it's an emotional thing, but that's what a chair has to do. I mean, you've been chairs at a meeting, and I've been a chair. I was a chair for many, many years, and sometimes, in reality, you need a whip and a chair.
Exactly.
To stay in control. And he really, it began to get heated, and he raised his voice. And I think that's the thing. The only problem I had with what he did, and I understand he was trying to regain control of the meeting, but when you begin to try to outshout the other person or elevate your tone, you begin to lose the control, because as the chair, it's your obligation to maintain order.
Yeah, and again, I received, I think, probably between Facebook, email, and phone messages, probably about 40 messages last night after we left the city council meeting, and they were all, this guy's ruining credibility of your cause. This guy's the leader of the recall committee, and he's ruining all credibility. And I'm thinking twice now about supporting the recall, and a lot of those different messages about people who were kind of on the fence and didn't know where to go. But I think one of the things that the people don't realize is there really isn't a personified chairman or leader of the recall group. The recall group was a bastion of people that were just disappointed and downtrodden by the policies and actions of Fall River City government, more particularly the administration. There are organizations which have a foundation, which has a base with a committee and a chairman and elsewise, but that particular committee that was formed, or group that was formed, came out of Threw Up in Fall River, which is basically a wasteland, as Jordan has termed it, of people's commentary. You can just go there and say anything no matter who you are. So whether you're pro Flanagan or pro recall, you can go to that group and just create as much havoc and drama as you want. That isn't always good, but that's where it's at. And people just don't understand that change happens in every life form, in every being, in every person, in every government. And today I'm on an Edmund Burke kick.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yes.
Sir Edmund Burke.
Yes. And, Burke said, "We must all obey the great law of change. It is the most powerful law of nature and the means, perhaps, of its conservation."
And he also said, when good men do nothing, evil will prevail.
Yeah, actually, it's the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing.
Well, he said it in different forms.
Right.
There's a few. But the fact is that, for the record, as CJ said, we've said it many times, the reality is that the Committee to Recall Flanagan is a coalition of people. Jordan Sylvia was basically important in the fact that the Throw Up Fall River page allowed people to come together with a singular cause. They were all frustrated with the way the city was being run. And in reality, Jordan Sylvia has, been a petition signer. He's done a little bit of work, but in reality, he is not the, he's not one of the people who really have organized the overall structure. He's not a ward captain, I don't believe, and he's not, he doesn't, he's just another person. Obviously, he has higher visibility because of the Throw Up and Fall River page. But as Americans, I've said this time and time again, everybody has the right to their own opinion. And you also can be as left and right or in the middle as you want. Jordan believes, and he has every right to believe, that he believes in basically total freedom where you can say anything and you want. And that's what he established that page for. That's his right. He actually believes that, anarchy isn't a bad thing either. So he has the right to that. There are people who think just the opposite. But that's what makes this country great. We have the ability to have differing opinions, and we have the ability to align ourselves with people of like mind and try to get a kind of government that will satisfy what we feel. And that's what the recall process is. We feel that Mayor Flanagan is not doing the job. He has lied to the public. He has done a lot of things, and we've defined that, and that's our prerogative. And there are people who believe that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And that's the problem. Things change, as you said, as Sir Edmund Burke said. Things change. People are always resistant to change. We can segue into the next thing and the big issue. The fact is, at one time, Jasiel Correia, the city councillor, was one of the mayor's strongest supporters. He was the spokesman for the mayor on election night in the last election. and the mayor supported his council candidacy. They were allies. Now, obviously, they're not allies again because things change. You know, and we all know what happened, and we can deal with that subject now. Basically, Jasiel is alleging, and we'll say alleging because nothing's been proved, and everybody has their opinion, that the mayor basically attempted to convince him to commit a felony by saying that Jordan intimidated him so Jordan could go to jail. And obviously the mayor has denied that, and you know, that is an issue. He was a political ally, but now we've been told that the mayor has been on and said he wants to bury the hatchet. And he said things like, you know, Jasiel texted me once at 11 o'clock and asked me if he could call me. And he texted me and said, happy birthday or something like that. Well, yeah, so what? You were allies at one time. I mean, he didn't text you at 11 o'clock. He said he texted you at 11 o'clock and said he would call you. He didn't text you and say, do you want to meet me on the waterfront with 2 guys and a gun? He didn't do that. So obviously it's different. It's apples and oranges. And it's also in a different time period. You know, at one time, Germany and Russia were allies. They weren't during the Second World War. So, I mean, we've got to put everything in perspective. And we have a major issue in this community. We have something that is casting, you know, a long shadow. We have been on the national news. We have been as far as California. There are articles being written. There's more things being said about this, that we have 2 city officials embroiled in an issue where there was a gun involved. And that's a serious, serious thing, especially in the state of Massachusetts. This isn't Texas where everybody's got a gun, you know, or Arizona. This isn't a gun state, you know. I mean, guns are considered, you know, something in this state that you don't play around with. And the fact is, brings me to one of my questions. I don't know why the mayor's still carrying a gun. I think if any private citizen was accused of using of even showing a gun or using it in any menacing or intimidating way, that permit would be revoked. I think I'd have a SWAT team around my house, and they'd confiscate everything, and I think everybody else would. And you know, I understand a police chief has said, well, there have been no charges filed, but I also know that police chiefs have absolute discretion when it comes to guns. And I know many, many people, and I read in the paper all the time. There was a case in Somerset a while back where there was a domestic dispute, and they went and confiscated the man's whole gun collection, and the guy was a gun collector. So you know, there's a lot of issues here. And CJ, why don't you give us your spin on this here?
Well, you know, it's very true. The police chief has absolute power over the gun licensing in Massachusetts. As a matter of fact, Massachusetts is not a will issue state, it's a may issue state. And the judgment or the ability to issue that license rests solely on the police chief. And again, if anyone is questioned about their firearm, you know, I don't like you, I just take it out and put it on the table. You know, I don't like you. There's my gun on the table. You're going to feel intimidated. Well, Chip might not, but but you know, you'll feel intimidated. If I do that, you're right. I will have a SWAT team at my house knocking on the door saying, "Give me the guns. Give me your license." So you have to ask yourself, why didn't Chief Racine do this? And there's a lot of other questions. As a matter of fact, the city council was apprised that they can order the district attorney to start a special investigation, which would require a special prosecutor because the mayor used to work for the district attorney's office. And any elected official in Fall River can do this. And what they said was that if Jasiel doesn't do something, they're going to do it for him. And so they're going to take that power out of his hands. And they voted on that last night. So they're going to give him 2 weeks to decide what to do. Now that, in my opinion, is intimidation. Okay, if you don't do it, we're going to do it for you, so you don't have a choice. But I also think that Jasiel's credibility is at question here. And a lot of people have been bringing it up because if this was a true case, and I'm going to play devil's advocate, if this was a true allegation, then Jasiel should have filed charges or a complaint immediately. He waited several weeks. Maybe he had to because he felt fearful and he needed to overcome that fear. But the complaint should have been filed. It shouldn't be questioned. Now I hear that another person is going to be coming forward, and I'm waiting to hear that story. But how much more is going to stop falling out of these closets that we don't know is happening? And I have to seriously question why. Allegations were made against me on WSAR on Monday after this story broke. Because as our viewers know, Chip, we are both credentialed members of the press. And I had my press badge on, and I had a camera with me, and I went into City Hall. And I went to the 6th floor looking for the mayor for comments on Jasiel's allegations. The mayor was nowhere to be found. The mayor's door was opened, and the window was slid over, and I said, "Excuse me, is anybody here? Hello?" Nobody answered. But I could hear them yelling in the back room, the back office area, which I believe was Ann O'Neill Sousa's office, but can't be sure, about this whole allegation. I left that window and went over to corporate counsel's office. The door was ajar, it was wide open, and there was nobody in the office there. So I proceeded to go around on the 6th floor to see if anyone was around, and I took the elevator downstairs and I went to one of the lower floors. When I stopped in one of the lower floors, I heard the radio on and them listening to the stories, and I went in and I said, "What do you think about this? Would you like to make a comment?" And the person turned around and said, "No, I don't want to be on camera. I'm afraid of my job." And I said, "I can understand that." They said, "But you might want to go downstairs to the assessor's office because that's where Mr. Goslin's wife works." And I did not know that. I had no idea that she worked for City Hall. So I went down to the assessor's office and I said, "Could I speak to Mrs. Goslin, please?" And the woman that was greeting me at the counter turned around and pointed around at the desk. She was sitting at her desk. And I said, "Mrs. Goslin, do you have any comments on the allegations by Councillor Correia that he was intimidated by the mayor and your husband?" And she goes, "What?" I said, "Do you have any comments?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day." And I started walking out the door. When I was walking out the door, the woman who greeted me at the counter turned around and said, "Is this for real?" And I turned around and said, "Yes, it's for real. They're broadcasting it on WSAR right now." And I left. At no time did I assault, accost, or intimidate her. I was there to get a comment, and I was going to air it on this show. But again, I was called out on WSAR and was actually threatened over the air. And I waited on hold for over an hour on WSAR, and they never put me on the air. As a matter of fact, they hung up on me. And they kept hanging up on me saying, "Well, we were trying to get through all the callers, and we dumped a few of them so we could find out where Jasiel was on the line." They have caller ID. They know who's on the phone line. And they tried to justify it in many different ways, and I just wasn't going to be part of the justification process. But this is the type of stuff that goes on. And when you're a member of the press, you have to be, available at all kinds of times, and you got to jump at the story as it comes up. But it is what it is, and we feel it every day. I don't know, Chip. It's like.
Well, this is one of the reasons that I was asked yesterday if I would like to see this investigated by a neutral party, and I said absolutely, just because of this. I'm not alleging that either party was right or wrong. They are allegations at this point, and why Councillor Correia did not come forward earlier. I've heard some reasons, but I think that's his, the burden is on him to explain that, just as the mayor's version of what happened should be investigated, and whoever is lying should basically be exposed. And what really troubles me about this issue is, obviously, these two, the mayor and a city councilor, obviously it casts a pall over the city. But there were two other people in that vehicle. And one of them was Mr. Goslin, who has gotten numerous contracts from the city, most of them non-bid, I believe. Mm-hmm. So obviously he has a vested interest. Why he was there is a question I have to ask, because if I'm meeting with anyone to discuss an issue, I probably wouldn't choose 1 o'clock in the morning, and I also would probably meet the individual one-on-one. I don't see the reason to have two disinterested parties in the vehicle. And when you meet someone at that time with two people in the vehicle, that lends some credence to, was this in fact an attempt at intimidation? But obviously you can't prove it. But what you can prove is if the two people in the back actually made a statement. Now, Mr. Gosselin said he heard the conversation, but another city councillor is contending that he was in the vehicle and when engaged in a side conversation with the individual who said that he heard what was said, and he didn't hear anything. Now, you know, let's be realistic. The credibility of that statement is just what were you doing? Tying your shoes? You know, were you looking for coins on the floor?
Chip, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
You know, but I mean, you know, have enough courage. Look, if you know, it's bad enough that obviously the people in that car were allies of the mayor. But this is why we need a professional investigation. We need people to come down and put these people, you know, and I know that the FBI has been contacted. And I'm not sure if they're going to come down, but I'll tell you what, we had people in the recall threatened. We've had people, you know, say that there were drive-bys, they were being followed. We had a lot of issues with this. So this seems to set up a pattern. And the fact is, let's really find out what happened. Let's let people come down and try to get to the bottom of this. Will they ever? Who knows? But you know something? I don't want to put the burden on the Fall River Police. It puts them in a box. The fact is that I think that we should have, I don't even think we should have the DA. I think we should have the feds come down. Because let's take it completely out of the state. There should be not even the slightest hint of an impropriety. We know that the mayor is backing the new gubernatorial Democratic candidate. So, you know, there will be a perception that the process wasn't clean. Well, and I think that's important. And I think that we should remove that and eliminate any perception that there's anybody that has any kind of connection with either party and say, let's get somebody down that has nothing to do with city or even state politics.
You know, but in this entire process, whether it be the allegations, the investigation, the actions of the police, the actions of the DA, the actions of the city council, it is not the impropriety, it is the appearance of such that is the problem. And that's what we have to avoid, anything being looked at as it being improper. Because when it's looked at as improper, appearances are reality to people. Therefore, they can't believe anything that's being said or done. So you have to wonder why. And you know, numerous complaints, and I know for a fact they were, I've actually read some of them and looked at them, were filed with the Attorney General's office. And Martha Coakley's office refused to answer any of them. Refused to do anything about them, because to quote her on WSAR, I will not look at this until after my gubernatorial run. Well, now her gubernatorial run won't be over till November. So she's not going to do it. So basically, she's abdicated her authority and her right as the Attorney General for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and said, somebody else needs to do my job. Is that the type of person that you want to look at things? Because that looks to me a little inappropriate. I mean, again, you know, it's not the impropriety, it's the appearance of such. And I think there's a lot of appearance there.
Well, you know, that's the point I said, perception becomes reality. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that, look, we're dealing with political figures here, and political figures have contacts. And those contacts could be perceived, and I'm not saying there would be an impropriety. They may do the most thorough investigation in the history of the state. However, there will always be that, what if? You know, we knew that, you know, he was a supporter. So why don't we just, and we do have the ability to take that out of the equation. The fact is that, when we're dealing with political figures, that's why most of the time, when there's any kind of action against a politician, it normally ends up with the feds coming in. And that's the reason that, Mr. Cianci went to Club Fed. He didn't go to, the ACI. The fact is that, the feds come in and they're kind of a neutral, unbiased party. They don't really care, and they're gonna do their due diligence. But the fact is that, as I said, the perception becomes a reality. How many people now? I mean, as I said, Martha Coakley's saying she's going to wait until, somebody else. She's not going to do her job till after the election. Well, we had a city councilor yesterday basically say, I don't want to do my job. There was a vote to remove the Section 4022F, which gave a board, which two people don't even live in a city, the right to impose a tax or a fee on the citizens of Florida. And I think that was an extremely appropriate vote. I think that they are our elected officials, as I said last night. Yet, Pat Casey, who I feel doesn't belong in that seat, again proved it. The vote was 8-1. So Pat Casey basically voted that she doesn't want the responsibility, and she's going to turn it over to an appointed board and not do her job as an elected official. What she wants to do is make sure her friends get their pothole claims gotten through. She wants to set up meetings for her real estate people, and she wants to use her political office for personal gain or her friends' personal gain. And that's the reason I say she should not occupy a seat in that council chamber.
And she was the only city councilor, I believe, that was in that Flanagan rally, the support for Flanagan rally. But it was very interesting because we saw Ralph Rowe, paid for by a government grant, being the mayor's cameraman again, looking like a Secret Service agent, and Jean St. Pierre, who, by the way, is a convicted felon and has a record a mile long, but is carrying people around the city, being paid for by the city, in a city job, carrying students or something from one location to the other. Again, these are the type of people that get hired. And again, it's not the impropriety, it's the appearance of it. And you have to say, what are we doing? All I keep seeing is my friend Rico walking by over there. You know Rico? He's a nice guy, he keeps walking by over there. So, I have to say I don't know. But I'm going to end this today, like you usually do, with a quote. I'm on the Edmund Burke kick today, so.
Oh boy,
yeah, he's a really
one
nice
of my
guy.
favorites.
Yeah,
one of my favorites.
People crushed by law have hopes, but from power. If laws are their enemies, they will be enemies to laws. And those who have much to hope and nothing to lose will always be dangerous. And that's what's happened to us. We're being pushed by new laws, new taxes, and new fees. So now we've got to push back.
So I'm going to quickly segue on that and say that brings me to one of the comments I have to make. The voter turnout was disgraceful.
Oh, yeah.
The
Poor.
only way we're going to be the change is to vote, people. And I understand it was a primary, but 14%.
13.69. Get it right.
Yeah, they rounded up. To make it look, even that is pathetic. I mean, so they rounded up, and as far as I'm concerned, that's like almost a zero turnout.
Right.
And, I am an independent. I've always been unenrolled. And yesterday I went to vote in the primary because I felt that I had some candidates I would like to see get in there in contested elections. However, the fact is that I went to vote. And the thing is that let's turn this around in November. People, we keep telling you, be the change. And the only way we can be the change is if you show up.
Thanks for watching. Have a great day.